Всем привет! Today our topic is adjectives. And adjectives are the words that kind of like define the noun in some way. For instance, the word interesting, when we connect it to book, like an interesting book, it tells us that that book is interesting. Or funny, a funny show. Or red, red skirt. So all these words, funny, red, interesting, in English, it doesn't matter what we connect it to. We can say an interesting movie, we can say an interesting book, but in Russian, the form of the adjective will depend on the gender of the noun that follows. So we'll have, just in the default forms, 4 versions of the word interesting, one for masculine, one for feminine, one for neutral, and one for plural. So these are the endings that we're going to look at today, and we actually are going to have a song to help you learn these endings. I didn't sing, I cannot sing, unfortunately, but my friends helped me record this kind of like melodic, rhythmic song to help you remember the endings. Let's start working with adjectives. Our topic today is прилагательные, or adjectives. And as I said in the intro, adjectives in Russian have different forms depending on the gender and number and case of the noun that they're describing. Now let's look up some adjectives in an online dictionary. Let's start with the word new. Новый. As you can see, the last 2 letters of this word are y, y. Now let's look up the word skinny. Худой. Now the ending is ой, о и краткое, ой, худой. Finally, let's look up the word blue, like the color blue. And here we have синий. The ending is и краткое, и. So let's go back to our notes and kind of like write these endings down. So the 3 types of endings that we saw are ой, and I, and they come with the default form of the word. So masculine endings are the default forms that you look up in the dictionary. So we'll have ой and ой, and we also will have the ending I. So these endings are the default endings. They come with the word. We learn them in the masculine default form. And endings I and oi are hard endings. And I is a soft ending. Let's write our words here. Новый, худой, and синий. So all of these forms are masculine words. It means that they will describe the word that is masculine. For example, новый дом, a new house, or худой кот, a skinny cat. Синий цвет means blue color. So once you know the default forms, and these are the ones that we learn by heart when we learn the vocabulary, you will be able to change them into neutral, feminine, and plural, and later, not in this video, but later we'll learn how to change them into different cases. Now, the rule of thumb is that the hard endings will stay hard through all of the transformations, and soft endings will stay soft through all of the transformations. So let's take a look at what we will have. So both I and oi will change to oye for neutral, and they will change to aya for feminine, and they will change to ие for plural. And then the soft ending transformation will follow this pattern. I will change to ye For neutral, it will change to ya, ya. For feminine, and it will change to I, ye for plural. So let's take a look how this transformation happens. So we have our default form, новый, which means new. And default form is masculine, so we can only use it with the masculine words. For example, дом, a new house, новый дом. What if we wanted to say a new lake? For instance, let's go check out this new lake. Now, новый is a masculine adjective, so it's gonna lose its masculine ending, and the masculine ending will be replaced by the neutral ending. Новое озеро. What if we wanted to say a new car? Again, we're gonna lose the endings that show us other genders, and we're gonna use the feminine ending ая. Новая, новая машина. Finally, what if we wanted to say books, like new books? Check out these new books. Again, we're gonna lose the endings that show us masculine, neutral, and feminine singular, and we're gonna use the ending for plural. Новые книги. So we will have новый дом, новое озеро, новая машина, новые книги. And now let's take a look at the word синий. So синий has the ending E, and it's a soft ending. So all changes will follow the soft patterns. So once again, we use синий with the masculine nouns. For instance, to say a blue house, we'll use the masculine default form, синий дом. And if we want to say a blue lake, we're going to use the neutral ending, neutral soft ending, синее озеро. If we want to say a blue car, we're going to be using the feminine ending я, синяя машина. And finally, if we want to say blue books, like books, all books that have blue covers, we will use the plural ending for the soft type of the ending, и, синие книги. So once again, all of these are soft because the default form ended in и. Синий дом, синее озеро, синяя машина, синие книги. Now, as you can see, I left a lot of space in here, and you probably know enough about the Russian language and the Russian grammar to know that every rule has sub-rules. And that's exactly what we're going to have here. So the rule of thumb that I told you, hard stays hard, soft stays soft, works for the regular hard words and soft ones. So like новый, худой are totally regular, and that's how they will change. And then синий is totally soft, regular soft, that's how it changes. But we also have a subcategory that I call false soft. And the false soft category are the words that really fall into the hard category of endings, but sometimes have soft endings. But before we go into that, we need to remember two spelling rules. And the spelling rules are the 7-letter rule and the 5-letter rule. So let's write them here. So here we have a 7-letter rule, and our letters here are G, K, H, and Sh, 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 and Ch. Sh, 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 and Ch. And if you remember my previous videos, that's how I was writing it, like separate 3 on top and 4 at the bottom, because these 4 letters are also part of the 5-letter rule that basically has the letter C in these 4 letters. So 7-letter rule are the 7 letters that cannot have U after it. It just cannot have the letter U after it. And then the 5-letter rule are these 5 letters that cannot have an unstressed O after it. Okay, now let's see how it works with the actual words. Let's imagine that we have a word that ends in oi, but it has one of the 7 letters right in front of it. For instance, the word плохой. Which means bad. Плохой. So let's see what happens with this word. Now the word плохой ends in ой, and that's our hard ending. So, and again, it's a masculine word, so we would be using it with the masculine words. For instance, a bad house. Плохой дом. Now, if we follow the rule of hard stays hard, these are the endings that we should be changing. If we want to say, let's say, a bad lake. I know, some horror movie, there's a bad lake in there. So here, озеро will get the ending ое. Плохое. And it works here. To say a bad lake, we'll say плохое озеро. Let's say we want to say a bad car. And again, to follow the rule, we have to add ая to build the feminine form. And it works again. Плохая машина. A bad car. Now, what if we want to say bad books? The books we didn't like. According to this rule, we need to add ые. Now, look what happens here. We cannot add ые to х because х is part of the 7-letter rules. And 7-letter rules or 7 letters cannot have U after it. So that's impossible. What do? We just change it to the soft ending. Плохие книги. Плохие книги. So that's how the 7-letter rule works. Now, it didn't affect, so from the word плохой, it didn't affect neutral because O is not U. It didn't affect плохая because A is not U. But here we see this transformation to the soft ending because H, as part of the 7-letter rule, cannot have this transformation happen. So we switch to the soft one. Плохие. Let's take a look at some more examples. Let's look at the word большой. And we'll say большой дом. And we'll say большое озеро. And again, it works. And we'll say большая машина. Большая машина. But to say big books, we can't. We cannot add this y to sh because it's a part of the 7-letter rule, cannot have y. So we have to switch it to the soft ending и. Большие книги. Let's take a look at the next category. Okay, so we just looked at the variation of ой when there is one of the 7 letters in front of it. And we looked at плохой and большой. Let me write it down. Большой. Большой. Now, let's take a look at the variation when 7 letters precede this ending. So let's see what's going to happen here. So we are going to look at these letters separately, these 3 and these 4. First, we're going to look at these 3 letters. So we will have the letter K and G and H. Doesn't really matter in which order we have them. Now, the hard ending for masculine is Y. But the transformation already happens here because these letters cannot have "y" after it. So already here we have to switch to the ending "e". E. So an example here would be the word русский. Русский. Now let's see what happens with the word русский. So the word русский, which means Russian, ends in E. And E we consider the soft ending, but it's not soft, it's full soft because it's only E because of this K in front of it, which is part of the 7 letters that cannot have Y in front of them. So for instance, to say a Russian house, we would say русский дом. And when we want to say a Russian lake, look what's going to be happening. Now, if it were a soft ending, we would be using this ending "е" for русский. Now, if it were really true soft ending, but remember how we said it's false soft? So false soft ones, whenever they can go back to their hard nature, they will. So here, русский, when we add it here, we don't have anything affecting it in terms of the 7-letter rule, so we will go back to the hard ending for neutral. It will be русский дом под русское озеро. If we want to say a Russian car, a similar thing is going to be happening. If it were a true soft ending, we would be adding я. But we really don't need to, because русский is a false soft. When it can go back to hard, it will. And here it can, because nothing is influencing the ending here. It's not "y". Yeah, it's not a 7-letter rule. So to say a Russian car, we go back to the hard ending. Русская машина. Now for plural, what happens here, like if we follow the rule, hard stays hard whenever it can, we should be adding "y", right? But that's where we cannot because of the 7-letter rule, so we have to switch to "ие". Русские книги, Russian books. Русский дом. Русское озеро. Русская машина. Русские книги. So in that change happens only because K is part of the 7-letter rule that cannot have "y" after it. So where we have it, the rule is enforced. And when we don't have "y", the rule is not enforced. Now what we have left here are letters Ж, Ш, Щ, and Ч, which are also part of the 7-letter rule. But also they're part of the 5-letter rule that cannot have the unstressed O. So G, K, H are not affected by the unstressed O, but these letters will be. So let's write them down here. So we'll write Sh, Sh, Ž, and Ch. So these letters, since they're also part of the 7-letter rule, also will have E instead of Y, but they will be false soft. So it's not the same as E and синий. It's only here because that ending couldn't be in its default form. So let's take a look what's going to happen here. Here we're going to use the word хороший, which means good. And if we want to say хороший дом, that's what we're going to say, хороший дом. And we remember that this ending is false soft. So where it can go back to the hard ending, it will. Now, when we say a good lake, that was a good lake. So what happens here, before when we had the word русский, so to say Russian lake, we kept the hard ending oya. But K is only part of the 7-letter rule. While Sh, or the letter Sh, is both part of 7 and 5-letter rules. And the 5-letter rules cannot take the unstressed O, which is what we see here. So if we have to add sh to the unstressed O, we have to switch it to the soft ending. So to say a good lake, we'll say хорошее озеро. And again, we are saying it here because sh is part of the 5-letter rule. Okay, then машина, if you want to say a good car. Once again, where full soft can go back to its hard nature, they will. A is not part of the 5 or 7-letter rule, so it has no effect on these letters, so we go back to our hard ending here. Хорошая машина, a good car. And I think you already know enough to guess that to say good box, we again will go to the soft ending ie because of the 7-letter rule. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So right now let's take a second and write more examples with all of these words. Let's start with our regular words. So новый, let's change it in all of these forms. Новый дом, but новое слово. A new word, like as in I'm learning a new word. Худой кот, but худое лицо. A skinny face. Новая машина. Худая кошка. A skinny cat. And кот is a male cat, and кошка is a female cat. And for plural, let's have новые книги. And худые люди, skinny people. So here we have our regular y and ой changing to oye and aya and uye. Now let's do our regular soft. So синий цвет. And for neutral, we'll say синее небо. Blue sky. And for feminine, we'll say синяя куртка. A blue jacket. For plural, we'll say синие глаза. Blue eyes. Let's look at another example of the true soft ending, and we'll take the word зимний, which means winter, but winter as an adjective. For example, зимний день, a winter day, or зимнее утро, a winter morning, or зимняя шапка, a winter hat, and зимние сапоги, winter boots, зимние сапоги. Okay, and now let's look at our full soft category. So first, let's review the endings. So when we have 7 letters preceding ой, neutral won't change, it will stay ое. Feminine won't change, it will stay ая. But plural will change to its soft counterpart ие. So let's take a look. For instance, we will have плохое слово, a bad word. Плохая машина. A bad car. And we'll have for plural плохие люди. Bad people. Now let's take a look at большой. Now you might say, what's the difference between большой here and sh and e? So большой here is the word, so ой ending is always stressed. So we have a stress falling on this ending. And большой will follow this pattern rather than this one because O is stressed. 5-letter rule will not apply here. So let's take a look. So if it doesn't apply, it will be ое, ая, ие. So большое озеро. A big lake. Большая for feminine машина. A big car. And for большие дома. Big houses. Большие дома. Дома is the word that's the plural for the word house, and it's somewhat of an irregular ending, like город, города, дом, дома. The a endings need to be remembered for plural. Okay, so now let's move on to the category of the 7-letter rule preceding e, and we first look at the k, g, h, like русский. So once again, русский, let's put язык, Russian language. Русский язык is our masculine form. Now remember that once they start changing, here it basically follows the same one as we did with ой. So ое will not be affected. Aya will not be affected, but plural will be. Ие. For example, русское слово. A Russian word. Русская песня. A Russian song. And then русские люди. Russian people. I'm not gonna go through all examples, but let's give an example with х. Тихий, which means quiet, the one you can hardly hear. So we'll do тихий, голос, a quiet voice. Okay, for neutral, we'll do тихое место, a quiet place, тихое место. For feminine, we'll do тихая ночь. Ночь is a soft sign feminine word. Тихая ночь means a quiet night. And for plural, we'll write тихие дети. Quiet kids. I know it doesn't happen very often, but you still can make this word. Тихие дети, quiet kids. Okay, now let's move on to she, chi. So these 4 letters are affected both by 5 and by 7-letter rules. So both rules apply here, which means that ое, unstressed ое, will change to е. Aya will not be affected and will stay aya. And then plural will also be affected by the 7-letter rule, change to ie. So affected by the 5-letter rule, not affected, affected by the 7-letter rule. So here let's do the word with sh. So we had хороший, хороший дом. A good house. For neutral, let's do хорошее слово. A good word. For feminine, let's do машина. Хорошая. Машина. A good car. And for plural, let's do good kids. Хорошие дети. Let's do one more in this category. Let's do one with «ж». Свежий. Here is «ж», here is «ш». Свежий хлеб. And that means fresh bread. For neutral, let's do fresh milk. Свежее молоко. For feminine, let's do fresh fish. Свежая рыба. And for plural, let's do fresh fruit. Свежие фрукты. In Russian, fruit is plural. Фрукты. Okay, now we have all that, and I know it's a lot, but I actually have a song that will help you learn these endings. Now, before I show you the song, I want to tell you a couple more things. I recommend that my students look at the word большой as an exception and just remember it as большой, большое, большая, большие. So we switch to ие only in plural. Because to be honest, that's the only word that you will see for a long time that ends in oi and has sh in front of it. Most of the words that you will see with sh, with the letter sh, will fall into this category. Хороший, старший, младший. And they are basically have soft endings everywhere except for feminine. So, in my song, I kind of like only focus on these endings to help you remember them. And большой I put into the category of something to just remember. И, ой, ое, ая, ые, и, е, я, ие, ки, кое, кая, кие, ши, шее, шая, шие. И, ой, ое, ая, ые, и, е, я, ие, ки, кое, кая, кие, ши, шее, шая, шие. Okay, that's the end of this video. I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching and keep learning Russian, and I will see you in my new videos. Пока-пока.